Alright, today we're having a look at Overload 1.0 by Optical Prime 36 and Rigorous Mortis. Alright, so here we are in Overload 1.0. We got a nice looking menu screen here. There was a bit of an introduction. I think we're going to jump into arcade mode and see what that's like. Skip to the game. But let's take a look at this, because this is actually pretty nice looking. Now, apparently this is a shooter with evolving enemies and a couple different play modes. There's an ultimate weapon dealie. I like the music though. I almost always like the music that's been turning up in levels or creations. Spin and aim, right. A little bit hard to read that because it's sitting above our little chap. What? Can I not kill you things? Should you be able to be killed? What's going on with you? I don't know. Like, there doesn't seem to be any damage indicator. Nice little upgrade there. That's cool. Okay. Like, I don't know how and how much damage those things were taking. I mean, I know how they're taking damage because I'm shooting them, but like, there's no indication that... Or maybe I'm not supposed to damage those. Maybe I'm supposed to kill X number of enemies? I don't know. I got little yellow dots that are coming at me. Oh, I thought like there was a little plank there that we were trying to stay on. I didn't realize we had that whole floor. Alright, so I guess the dealy bobs on the wall, interesting. I guess that they don't really have anything to do with completing the waves. They're just spawning enemies to attack us. Getting rid of the enemies is what actually finishes things off. Interesting that, but I do think perhaps if that's the way it's going to be, then maybe putting some kind of indicator, like how... Well, maybe not as a number, but ultimate weapon is R2. I just noticed that right now. Okay. I mean, I'm not liking it, but it's also not necessarily... What does that say? Wave shot weapon, hold L1. Alright, so we can dual fire now. Difficulty's heating up a little bit. I do like the look of the enemies when they get close enough that I can actually parse what they are supposed to look like. So that is nice. And it's like the playfield is a little bit... It feels a little bit difficult to parse because the ground is so dark most of the time. And our little chap is very small. And there's lots of little things that are floating around. Like, so I guess those little yellow globs are points. So the points maybe are not automatically granted. So if we want to keep that score chain going, ultimate is ready, press R2. Do I really want to? If we want to keep the score chain going, we actually want to kind of get ourselves to those points. And some of those points are floating off, so maybe there is like an effective range for the suction that will put those points on me? I'm not sure. It's not like... It feels like with a lot of these levels where you're just kind of figuring out mechanics as you go along, that they're not presented to you necessarily. Which, to be perfectly honest, is basically how I played old NES games. But, because the manuals weren't always the best at introducing mechanics or explaining what you're supposed to be doing. So, we got a warning. Perhaps this is a boss? Or an anomaly? That's a tough word to say. We've only got 40 seconds. Starting core network defense protocols. Beep boop, beep beep boop. Alright. I mean, like, I am buying what the creation is selling. I'm not liking it, but I don't know. It maybe feels a little bit more like the difficulty should ramp up just a touch more quickly. What just happened? Did I die? Did we die? I'm gonna try to get through to the end of this wave. Like, so this swirly red thing, is that an enemy or not? I'm not sure. Okay, so that is an enemy, and it killed me. I was killed. Oh, we got a boss. Please stop. Wait, we defeated it? What? We're gonna go back to the hub and talk about it there, but we'll see you there. See yas! And we're back, and Overload 1.0 by Optical Prime 36 and Rigor Mortis, and I would say it's a very solid on yellow square. Some may feel, you know, it's always your mileage may vary, but some may feel that it's actually should be bumped up to a green circle, and at times I felt that way myself, although I do think there are a few things that are pulling it down, but I have to say that I had a really, really good time with this one, and I had my enjoyment increased as I got farther into the creation, which, you know, is not always the case. Sometimes things feel like they slog on a little bit, but this one I felt did continue to pick up as I played through. Now, we played through on the arcade mode, and there's three options there. There's your arcade mode, your endless mode, and your classic mode. I didn't actually try endless mode. I figured it was probably pretty clear from the name what that was going to be, so I stuck with arcade mode and classic mode, and I'm really glad that I did try the classic mode out, because you can see very clearly the jump in skill in the creation design and the jump in skill in presentation and game design from the classic mode to the arcade mode. They're almost two different games. We talked a little bit in the video about how things were a bit visually difficult to parse at times in the arcade mode, and I do feel that that is something that needs to be addressed. We'll talk about that in a bit, but it is head and shoulders better than what is in the classic mode, where I actually lost my first 2 lives because I couldn't see where I was at all, and you know, I could only eventually pinpoint where I was from where my shots were coming from. I could almost never actually see my player model, my character model. So that is one point that, you know, is an issue that was at least partially addressed in the upgrade to arcade mode. Now, as we saw in the video, basically what's going on, you're an anomaly, you've gotten dumped into this computer system. You're going to be defeating as many, or all of, if you are more skilled than I, of the computer's defense systems, and I imagine eventually take over or destroy that computer. The title screen tells us that there are evolving enemies, and I guess you could kind of say that. The enemies do get bigger, they do get a little bit faster. I don't know if I would go so far as to say that they're an evolution. They don't really seem to pick up new abilities or anything like that. Just be worth more points and be a little bit more difficult to kill. I mean, if they're upgrades, I don't know if they're really evolutions. The different enemy types, once you start seeing a lot of enemies on the screen, and the action really starts to pick up around wave 6, and I ended up getting to wave 8 or 9 in my second playthrough. So by the time you've got like a lot of enemies on screen, it is a little bit difficult to parse just what is different about them. They're all just various things that are trying to move very quickly and kill you. So again, it's hard to say, well, this enemy has this type of attack pattern and this enemy has this type of attack pattern. For the base type enemies, it didn't seem like there was too much difference, or there wasn't a lot of difference that I could pick up. One of the enemy types that was different and did end up causing some deaths, partially because of communication with player, I think, is that little spinny bit that appears on the ground, and if you stand in that, it's a death zone, and it will kind of, it follows you around. You can't actually shoot it. It'll drift after you for a while, and then it'll just disappear, and then there'll be like others that will show up. I think around wave 8 or so, you'll start getting more than one on the screen at the same time, and that, I think, kind of points out to one of the issues that I had with this was, what is going on and what is important for me to pay attention to as a player. So, because there are a lot of ground effects already going on in the creation. You've got, you know, little energy running through the circuit board that's kind of on the ground there. It's not hazardous in any way. You've got the little blobs, the score blobs you know, that are you can kind of pick up. So when that spinny enemy on the ground, the death zone enemy on the ground first showed up, and I didn't know if that was something to be concerned about. I didn't know if that was just a visual effect that, okay, well, it's just there, but it's not very important to us, or if it was, as it was, an actual enemy, an actual hazard. So players being able to understand what's on the screen, what's important, I think is one place where this level does fall down a little bit. It's visually very, very busy. It's extremely busy. So that was one point that I felt did kind of stand against it. There really wasn't too much else. Another communication issue with the player that I mentioned in the video, how there wasn't really any controls page. There wasn't anything for me to see what I was supposed to be doing. But Optical Prime and Rigor Mortis, they do put those kind of prompts over the player's head to tell you, you know, use your one stick to aim and use one stick to move. And that's good in a sense. I mean, you do want to communicate with the player, but I did find that those could get lost in the cruft pretty easily, especially when other bits of information were showing up on the screen at the same time. The fact that they were tethered to the character model, so as you moved farther away, that the words actually got smaller and a little bit more difficult to read there. And they did, I felt, stay over the character model a little bit longer than entirely necessary, so they again became more noise versus the signal that I was supposed to be recognizing from the level. So I don't know if maybe locking those in one place, like in a HUD area, maybe in the upper right or the upper left, where I can notice them, the player can notice them, but they're not interfering with the other things that you're seeing on the field, that would probably be a good idea. And confusion as well, something that we mentioned in the video when we were first playing, and I really wasn't sure how I was supposed to be completing the waves. I had thought that the bits on the side that are actually spawning the enemies, I thought that those would infinitely spawn until I defeated those bits. It took a little while for me to figure out that that's not really the case. Now, I'm still not entirely sure if the waves were timed or if the waves were by defeating enemies, because sometimes when like a wave 2 complete or a wave 3 complete would flash up on the screen, there would still be some enemies there that could attack me, and I think a couple of times in my second playthrough I might have actually died because of that. You're not immune, you're not immortal during those seconds. Invincible would probably be a better term. We did see, I don't know if say necessarily a boss, but we did see kind of a mega enemy show up, and that was kind of cool, something that was a little bit more visually distinct than the other enemies that we saw on the screen. I do wonder if there are more. This is something I'd like to go back to and play on stream and see if we could get farther. I think that we could. A bit of an interesting thing that turned up in this go about, in the second go about that I played. In the first time that we played the video, and we noticed that I'd gotten two weapons, one on the L1 and one on the R1. I never picked up that second weapon in my second playthrough. I don't know why. I don't know if I missed a bauble or something. I should have picked up a power-up on the ground, or if it just didn't spawn or what. It didn't really have any major effect. In fact, I did better in my second playthrough than I did in my first playthrough, but I did think that was a little bit odd. I did find it easier to kind of figure out what was going on with the ultimate weapon this time around. I was able to use it to better effect and to clear off those waves a little bit more quickly. I really did enjoy, I don't know why my voice slowed down there for no reason. I really did enjoy Overload 1.0. I know why it slowed down, because I want to say Overlord, and I don't know why I want to say that. I really enjoyed this level. I think Optical Prime 36 and Rigor Mortis did a great job with it. It's a huge improvement over the classic mode. It's something that I would like to go back to and play again, so it does have replayability, or at least has replayability for me. And I just think that a little bit better communication with the player, making things a little bit more obvious, or to kind of put something like a menu in the menu screen, put kind of a control an enemy's page so that players will know when certain things spawn that, you know, is this a visual effect, is this a hazard, is this a power-up, before they actually go in, and they have to kind of figure all that out on their own, maybe resulting in deaths, maybe resulting in a game over. But Optical Prime 36, Rigor Mortis, you did a great job. I had a really fun time with this, and I look forward to seeing what you've got coming for us in the future. But I think that just about does it for us this go about. So from me, Disco, here in Osaka, to all of you out there, wherever you may happen to be, thank you. Arigato, arigasan ryota, sayonara, see you, and ciao.